Yes, indeed, people. Black man battling. We on the air, folks. This is the first episode of the Black Man Battling podcast, and my name is Mark Cummings, and some of you folks already know me out there from the Mark Cummings Show back in about 10 years ago, and I'd just like to put a shout out to my old producer back then, Brother Curtis Clay. He got me in this business of doing podcasts and trying to get some information out to the people, and my biggest thing was, you know what? I'm about teaching, and we got to figure out what we got to do. Because my first show, if a lot of you guys remember, was called The Black American Relationship Reboot. And at the time, I knew we were having these situations with the sisters, and we was up there battling to get these relationships right. And unfortunately, that was 10 years ago. And, my theme back then was the plundering of the patriarch. It seemed like they had somehow managed to average out the black man from the entire family structure. And it was almost as if nobody really could see how unbalanced that was. And 10 years later, folks, back at it again. And I just like to thank a good friend from way back, Brother Doug Craig. He's the producer on this program. He said, Mark, we got to get you back out there. And I said, hey, I got a lot to say. And that's why I'm here, folks. And, it's a good thing because y'all know me. Those of you guys who know me know that I really care about my people. And I really care about family. That's the biggest thing and the most important thing going. And my name is Cummings. I come from the Cummings family. And, just a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me. I've been blessed to have been born at Henry Ford Hospital here in Detroit, Michigan on September the 8th, 1965. And as we know, that was, I think, a few months after they signed the Voting Rights Act, as a matter of fact. And 1965 was a good year, We was trying to get it together. And from there, I'm the son of Maxine and Carswell David Cummings. My father worked in the plants, in the Winfield plant, out near, right on the edge of Highland Park. And it was just something different about those times back then. I think that's why I'm so enthralled by fatherhood and men. That's why I say we call black men battling, because I don't know a black man that doesn't battle. And I said, I told Mr. Craig, I said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to come with a different idea. And it came to me in the middle of the night because I was watching one of the shows, and you guys might know Dr. Greg Carr. That gentleman makes it happen. He is the professor of Africana Studies at Howard University, which is also the school I went to. I'm alumnus of Howard University. And, that's the Mecca. Incredible, historically black college and university. Matter of fact, it was the first one. So, look, that's the key. We battling and we trying to get it right. So, like I was saying, when I was coming up, all the men looked out for one another. It wasn't no single family headed household. I mean, you had a few, but even if the woman wasn't married, the man was still there in the house. And on my block, I grew up on North Lawn near Joy Road. They even made a movie called Joy Road, if I recall correctly. So, I mean, that's a neighborhood that, people are aware of across the country. So I grew up over on North Lawn between Joy and Tyerman. And everybody in that neighborhood knew each other. On my block, everybody knew each other. All the families. And, I shout out a lot of them, the Allen family, the Gibson family, the Collins family, the Cox family. You guys on the Dooleys down the block. Old man Dooley owned the gas station and a garage to fix your car. I mean, it was just that family atmosphere. And, I used to tell my sons back then, whatever you needed done, you knew somebody that could do it. because all the guys worked in the plants. Whether they worked for Ford, GM, or Chrysler, it didn't even really matter. They all looked out for one another. They all bowled against each other. That was a big thing here in Detroit, was bowling. You had a bowling alley look like on every 5 blocks. And so I'll never forget, we had a big tree in our backyard, but it was rotten. And we had a brother named Billups. He came, cut the tree down. My father had a guy from the plant that did the basement before I was born. He said, we had the wood paneling all in the basement, had a fresh wooden bar. So, the guys could come down and have a drink. And they would do that. They would come and knock on our door sometime in the middle of the night. Carl, I need somewhere to stay in. My wife fussing at me. So the old dude let them stay in the basement and chill out. Then they could have a drink and everybody call it a day. And it was just something about them times. And then the politics, folks. I think we've forgotten how intimate politics was back then. I mean, in my neighborhood, we were close to a lot of different families that were in politics. My mother actually worked, for those who don't know, Irma Henderson was one of the city council people here, and my mother worked for her. And, that was a heavy piece. And the Diggs family, folks, they were in Congress and state reps. They would come to the house, because we had a huge extra lot. So in the back, my father had a nice patio, and we had the nice little table and chair set, and the brick. One of the guys from the plant built a brick barbecue pit in the backyard, folks. My goodness, we had it so good back then. And they would just sit down and talk about things and, come get the donations and, pass out the flyer, go pass out the flyer. My father would take some to work and things. So, I just want to shout out my auntie as well, my father's sister, Ann Avant. She was one of the first donors to who we all know is a great man, Brother John Conyers, in his campaign in '68. So it was just an atmosphere of love and family. And that's what we battling for. We battling to get that back. And that's what this broadcast is going to be about. I'm going to be focusing on a lot of men that's doing great things, a lot of sisters that's doing great things. I'm an avid reader, so I got all these books on the table. And I want to shout out a few guys that, good friends of mine who've written books. And that's what it's about. We got to get back to understanding a need for balance. That's why I titled this first show, folks. And once again, shout out to Dr. Greg Carr. He come with it. He says it's an African way of knowing. And one of the African ways of knowing is, who are we to one another? And that's the question we got to start asking ourselves. Who are we to one another? Because we got to understand how important it is that you might not even know somebody, but you feel connected to them because you understand they in the struggle right with you. If you're a black person, back in the day, we already know. You'll be going out to the malls out there in the suburb, Northland or whatever. If you were black, you just automatically gave somebody a head nod or said hello or black power or something to them because you understood. We all in this together. And they fought that. That's why I got my shirt here. Are you tired of racism? We got to understand that racism is a social structure that demanded that we not be together. A social structure that broke up our families, and we got to figure out how to put them back together again. We can't keep running around with all of this division, folks. That's why Black Man Battling. I'm doing this podcast because I feel very deeply that we need the type of programming that we can all put it together. Because I listen to a lot of great people out there that's doing things. I listen to Neely Fuller's podcast. That man, I meant to bring his book in here, but it'll be on one of the other shows for sure. And the compensatory code, that's what it's called. Because he said you got to have a code to live by. And that's important. Another brother out here, Dr. Ray Hagins, the African Center. I mean, that brother, ooh, Lord, he said, look, I'm taking religion all the way back to where it really started, okay, in Africa. And man, I'm telling you, you listen to some of his minister moments, my goodness, you're going to learn something. That brother is a heavy piece. And I just like to thank a man here in Detroit that's been doing a lot of great work. Brother Malik Shabazz. Minister Malik Shabazz introduced me to Ray Hagins' tapes. I used to go over there to the Marcus Garvey Center. For folks who don't know, it's a center here in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, where the people just gather to get their marching orders to break down foolishness. This man has been marching on stores that sell us bad meat, bad outdated food and stuff for years. And black man battling. Okay. He ain't playing. So, of course, I gravitated to Minister Malik Shabazz, like, brother, what are you doing? I need to be a part of this. So just want to say shout out to Minister Malik Shabazz. I hope he's doing well. I got a signed book for him once I can catch up to him from another good brother that I had on my old podcast, Pastor Michael Robinson. Lord have mercy. That brother did a book called My Father's Blood. And I got a signed copy for you, Minister Malik. We're going to get that to you. So, look, it's going to be a good podcast. This is the inaugural one. We just getting a lot of stuff out here so you can understand. It's going to be fun. We're going to have guests on that's doing great things, authors. I got a man who done put together incredible software to do your bookkeeping. He said, bump all that Quicken Books and all that stuff. That's for the big guy. You got a small business, you making under $1 million, you need something simpler. He got the software for him. We're going to have him down here. So many people doing great things. It's just amazing. And the theme will always be black man battling, because we know there's a battle out here and we want to win. And, you know, I figured, you know, for a cat like myself, it's rough because I got $2 here on the table. Who was that who did my last $2? Was that Joe Tex? I think that's my last $2, folks. I'll tell you, we always battling, but I love it. I love it because your friends, it will make it easy to go to war. And when you're in a war, you're battling. So when you go into battle, you need people you can depend on right there with you. And that's what we trying to do, brothers. We trying to bring us back to understanding how much we need each other. That's why I say, you know, who are we to one another? Because we got to understand how important that is. And it's the little things that make you see how much we need to get back to battling. I was on the way in today. I was running behind. I got in my car. And, of course, Johnny Taylor, that's who it was, my last $2. I know it was one of them JT cats. And Doug, like, you got to get it right. And I'm telling you, but no, as I was saying, folks, once again, I was coming in here because, you know, this is my first broadcast. I didn't want to be late. I'm rushing. I got to get some gas for the car. So I stopped at one of the gas stations in the neighborhood. And I ain't too fond of stopping in the neighborhood because there's always something. Down here in Detroit, we got a lot of owners, and they from the Middle East. And they don't have as much respect for us as they should. So they just think they can get away with anything. And that's why I say we got to become one, because we got to learn how to battle this foolishness. We're starting to take a lot of foolishness. So I get up to the gas pump. I put my credit card in, and nothing happened. You know, I'm like pumping the thing, it plop back down, and it say, you want a receipt? I'm like, okay, maybe I did something wrong. So I put it back on the hand, did it one more time. It did it again. So, you know, at this point, I'm like, I'm running out of time. I got to get, there's always something. So I go inside. I'm like, man, what's going on pump 6? I'm like, man, what, you ain't got no gas or something? He got a sign. He going to put the sign up and thing, premium only. And I'm like, first of all, why you didn't put the sign out there on the gas pump? And second of all, if you ain't got nothing but premium, you need to be charging regular prices for it. Because I don't want to be paying no premium price. And the folks in there were like, you know, whatever, you know. And back in the day, we all know the whole place would have been, man, if you don't change these prices to regular, because you know we don't need no doggone premium to put in these little cars. Come on now. But everybody just went along with it and paid the premium price because they were out of regular and out of mid-grade. I'm like, you know what? We got to start battling. Black man battling, folks, because we got to get back to having some attitude. You know, the sisters done took all that away. Now, they the one walking around with the attitude. they more angry than we are. That's why I say we got to build this right. And sisters, y'all know, come on now. We've been battling for you for years. You know, they have threw so many curveballs at us that, you know, we done swung and took some shots for the fence and missed. But you got to give us a chance. It's a 9-inning game. You know, we might be in about the 6th inning. Give us a chance. We ain't gave y'all a chance. And the brothers out there, look, all this talk about going to flying to other countries to find women, look, I don't care what you do, but that ain't necessarily the answer, you know. So we got to get the sisters to understand we all in this together. We can't do with this division. And, you know, that's going to be a big theme of mine because, you know, I done read all kind of books. I'm telling you, the brothers we got to battle because these are the books that came out in like the 90s and early 2000s. They wanted to tell the world that black men didn't want to get married. So you had this R.M. Johnson cat talking about why men fear marriage. And I read this book and took a few notes on it. And, man, I tell you, this brother here was trying to make it seem like, let me see what I got. What's something I got in here? No, the fact is no man wants to marry a woman who has been a slut all her life. We just want a woman who knows as much slutty stuff as possible. Okay, really? This is the crazy stuff they put in these books, you know. So it's like, okay, look, we want to be married. We just want y'all to understand y'all wives, okay? That's the main thing, you know. We don't want to be battling these 2 husbands in the house. You know, we want everything to be, you know, like that. Because I ain't gonna kid you, back in the day, my father and mother, it was just something different about mothers back then. Because, I mean, ain't like no men had that much money back then. You know, my mother was telling me when my father first was working, shoot, they used to live on the east side like most black people here in Detroit, over on Cameron and Canfield. And man, the stories over there, that was another one with some crazy story, but it was tough. You know, they stayed in the attic, you know, that was their first spot, you know, in a house with 2 different families, you know, and it wasn't a double family place, you know, it was a single family household, 2 families, and they was in the attic. And, you know, that ain't easy. So all of this stuff about men having $100,000 and all this foolishness, no, come on. We got to get back to showing each other love. Black man battling. So, brothers, we got to come together because you know what did happen to us? This brother here, Reggie Williams, man, I'm telling you, I met this brother online. He said, look, I got a book. It's called A Marginalized Voice. And he said, unfortunately, society has marginalized the voice of the black man. That's a heavy piece to admit. We done lost our voice, devalued, dismissed, disenfranchised, and demonized. My goodness, the 4 Ds, and they ain't good ones. This is devastating, folks. This brother here, we hooked up in D.C. He been all over the country doing his piece, too. I'm going to have him on. We're going to do a Zoom podcast with this brother at some point because Mr. Doug Craig can do it all when it comes to technology. I got one of the best producers in the business, folks. I mean, this man is something else. Detroit, I mean, we didn't just birth some of the greatest talents alive. You know, you talk about Motown. Well, after that, people don't give enough respect to techno. Techno was the next wave. You know, they came up under that disco beat, but we turned disco into something way different. And man, techno just went nuts, and they just love it over in Europe, folks. Black man battling. You know, we put it together. And now Europe then usurped it and made it their own. We can't let that keep happening. But what else have they taken from us? Black man battling. But let me get back to my man here real quick, because we're going to have Reginald Williams on. Marginalized voice. Sisters, just think about it. I was watching the TV the other day, and I always tell my wife, because I'm married, you see the ring, 25 years in the game, folks. So I ain't playing. I've been with you for a while. And I know what it's like to have a sister. It's a battle, but you got to stick it out. And see, that's why I think the first marriage had to be black folks because they averaged in for better or for worse. Oh my God, you know that had to be us. So I mean, let's just be honest. You deal with that. You already know that they fighting you at every turn, ladies. It ain't never been a bed of roses for us. But we have managed to stick it out and hang in there. Everybody in here, family members, stuck it out. You know, my parents was married. My father lived to be 94. He married my mother. He told her he was 28, but he was actually 38 because he was digging her. She was 21. But nonetheless, she was a hot thing, too. She used to model hats for, what's that sister that was teaching them etiquette over there in Motown? Maxine something. I can't remember her last name. But Sister Victoria Edwards is the new piece for the etiquette. We're going to have her on the show at some point, talk about etiquette and teaching etiquette. But nonetheless, back to what I was saying. My father, 56 years of marriage? 56 years married. You know, that's what it's about because it says something about you as a person. Anybody can get divorced, give up on their lover, give up on their husband, give up on their wife, give up on the kids. But it takes a real incredible person to see it through. And for those of you guys who are religious, you know what it's about. They say God abhors divorce. You know, he don't even think about it. Like, you must be out your mind to get married under my name, then go out here and make a blaspheme and make a mockery of it. So he's going to get serious. But what I was saying, because I'm down to the last few minutes, on the other half of this 30 minutes, we're going to get to some jazz, folks. We're going to talk to Brother Eric Scott. Ooh, it's going to be fun. He's a jazz historian and a master barber and a Howard University alum. I'm telling you, it's just so great. But what I was saying before I get down there, because how much time I got before I'm at the bottom? About 4 minutes. I just like to say, have you been watching Madison Avenue? Think about that. When I was coming up, I used to teach my sons to watch TV critically. Watch these commercials and watch what they trying to say. No commercial had a man in it. It was always single mothers. They would be the one with the kids, McDonald's. It didn't matter what the commercial was. They were just the greatest thing on earth. Didn't need a man. People don't even realize how they send these subliminal messages into your life, and after a while, you cool with them. So now what you got? Every sister is married, but she married to a white guy. I'm like, how in the world did we go from no man in the house to all of a sudden now all the black women got white guys? Heck, I saw a commercial with a black woman with an Asian guy. I'm saying, okay, now they taking it a little too far. But look, folks, ladies, don't fall for it. Don't fall for the okie doke. And I don't want to go into too deep, but we're going to get deep eventually. This is going to be the podcast you want to stick with because I'm telling you, I done it all. I've been to the Million Man March, D.C. We're going to talk about that. I interviewed the lady that headed up the Michigan State Million Woman March here in Detroit, Sister LaShonda Bartel. So we're going to talk about some things. But we at the bottom of the hour. My main man, Doug Craig, said we're going to get to the next segment. Are we going to a break?
We're going to take a break.
We're going to take a break, folks, and we're going to come back because like I said, they always trying to take something from us. They done took techno and ran it overseas. They trying to do the same thing with jazz. But I got the jazz historian, Eric Scott, the jazz messenger, coming up at the bottom. Love y'all, folks. Black Man Battling. Peace.
Great show, guys. Great show. Nice.